What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and it's Top 10 Thursday. Let's face it, Japan gets way more stuff to play than the rest of the world. They've got the most game studios and the most developers, which means that they get hundreds of projects that never leave their home country. That's a real shame because some of these are genuinely fantastic. This week, I would take a special look at these, digging deep to find the best of the best on my picks for the top 10 cool games trapped in Japan. Number 10. Captain Rainbow. Being a superhero is a much tougher job than it may appear, especially when your mission is not only saving people but also helping them follow their dreams. Captain Rainbow is an extremely silly title that manages to show us that even with amazing powers, you still have to remember to do your chores and be nice to your neighbors. We take on the role of an ordinary looking man named Nick who's come to Mimon Island hoping to find purpose again and to enjoy a relaxing vacation. Things don't stay calm for very long though, because soon everyone starts having major problems that can only be solved by his alter ego Captain Rainbow with his genius ideas and his yo-yo of justice. I really think this game could have been a big hit in America simply for how bizarre it is. Number 9. Shadow Tower Abyss. In recent years, the Dark Souls series has built an extremely dedicated fanbase that prides itself on being able to handle any challenge. Surprisingly, a lot of these diehard followers don't realize that From Software, the team that made these, has actually been making incredibly rough games for over a decade. While exploring an old, crumbling kingdom in search of treasure, our character is locked in a creepy, monster-filled tower. Each floor of this cursed palace will force you to tackle your own fears of the unknown and increasingly difficult fights. What really impressed me most about Abyss was how detailed focused the combat could be. We can equip 2 weapons at any time, a gun and a sword, and you'll need both if you want to survive. Dodging attacks, striking enemies, and lining up a clean headshot often means the difference between an encounter you walk away from and the boss that finally kills you. Number 8. Initial D Extreme Stage. Along the curvy mountain roads of Tokyo, there's a war quietly going on. This isn't a battle of raw bloodshed, but instead a struggle to see who can become the best racer in town. Initial D is all about fierce rivalries and brutal competitions between local gangs who are willing to do anything to buy better car parts, learn new styles of drifting, and cross the finish line first. We start off at the very bottom of the ladder, so making a name for ourselves is going to require that we prove our talent on the track a mile at a time. The gameplay is a really sharp mix of realism and arcadey physics, making it possible for you to easily glide around corners in the dark of night perfectly with just a little practice. Although I couldn't understand the cutscene since I don't speak Japanese, I could still see the tension ramping up as all these guys put more and more of themselves in the line in order to earn the right of being called the king of the streets. Number 7. Clock Tower. There's always something truly fascinating about finding a game so unique that it essentially invented its own genre. The Super Nintendo version of Clock Tower was released in 1995 and is considered by many to be one of the earliest major survival horror games. We play as Jennifer, a young woman who's just been adopted by a mysterious family up in the hills. Excited about at last having a place to live, she heads there immediately, but things quickly take a turn for the worst. Shortly after arriving at the house, a creature breaks into the estate and begins hunting people down with his giant pair of scissors. Jennifer is basically stuck in a terrible match of cat and mouse. Everywhere she goes is confusing and different to us, and nothing quite makes sense. By searching the area, we can find hiding spots, ways to defend her from Scissorman, and maybe even a path to escaping. There's a crazy amount of pulse-pounding fear woven into every second of this game. We know that at any moment he's just out there watching and waiting, hoping we make a mistake so that he can collect another victim. Number 6. ChainDive. Imagine if you woke up wearing a mechanized suit that increased your strength 1,000 times over, and you had a whip that could attach to anything it touches. Using these freshly obtained abilities, you can swing through environments, slaying aliens, or just goofing off and pretending you're Spider-Man. ChainDive is a smart blend of standout gameplay and fun mechanics. By hitting foes with your whip, you can freeze them, allowing them to be shattered with your next strike. The real skill required for this though is that many levels don't have a floor, so you need to constantly stay in the air. That means you'll have to get very good at falling to gain speed, grappling a green orb to swing off of, and also picking a target mid-flight. All of this would be overwhelming if the controls weren't so solid, but really, I never found myself getting a game over unless I really messed up. ChainDive shifts itself from side-scrolling action to large open zones and totally random levels like snowboarding, so really you just need to keep charging forward to be ready for anything. Number 5. Dungeons & Dragons Collection. The Sega Saturn is one of those odd consoles that had a very small library of titles outside Japan. While here in America, we got under 250 awesome games, in its country of origin, they received close to 600. The Dungeons & Dragons Collection is one of those gems that tragically never got translated, which is really a shame because it's absolutely amazing. Inside this package deal, we got 2 separate adventures, each being a classic beat-em-up that can be enjoyed alone or with friends. As soon as you turn it on, you get to pick a hero and set out into daring lands of dark magic and evil armies. I'm sure you've already noticed, but the comic book art graphics look badass in motion, almost making it seem like we're stumbling into the drawings of a wildly creative writer who tried to shove all of his best plans into a single project. It takes a special kind of game to have us smashing apart skeleton warriors and talking to townsfolk without ever feeling too silly. It takes itself just seriously enough that we respect the world they've made and want to do everything we can to save it. Number 4. Sin and Punishment. I always love trying out a title that somehow combines 2 very different genres of gaming into a product that's purely one of a kind. Sin and Punishment is so weird that there's a 10-minute stage just explaining how to play it, but once you get through this, it actually has some of the greatest Nintendo 64 gameplay I've ever experienced. Your character stays at a constant run, and it's up to you to move left and right to avoid obstacles and jump over traps. During this, you also need to carefully aim with your machine gun to blow apart the enemies in front of you. This gives the entire game a sense of pacing like a retro on-rail shooter, and yet it's crossed with enough intense twitch reaction moments that it still reminds me of things similar to Striker. What really shocked me the first time I put this into my system is that while the menus and subtitles are in Japanese, the voice acting itself is in English, but the story is so insane I couldn't tell you what it's about. All that really matters is grabbing a huge laser rifle and getting prepared for another epic mission to rescue the population of Earth. Number 3. The Legendary Starfy. This entry on the list is slightly confusing because there is in fact a game called Legendary Starfy that came to the Nintendo DS in the United States, but that isn't the real game that we're talking about here. The Starfy series has been a major platforming franchise in Japan for the last 15 years, starting back on the Gameboy Advance. Our squishy, adorable hero is a starfish who ends up going on an epic quest across the ocean after he accidentally drops a jar containing a powerful ancient demon into the water, thus unleashing chaos into the sea. Knowing that this is all his fault, Starfy decides to personally track down every baddie he can and cram them back in his magical prison. Each of these colorful stages has us swimming around doing spin attacks and attempting to find our way through these mage-like depths. There's a major puzzle focus to Starfy that is super fun. Pushing blocks around and searching for the correct way to progress has a very natural flow to it. Helping him discover the secrets of the ocean, unlock new talents, and make new buddies built an extra sense that we too are right along with him for this wild ride. Number 2. Dot Hack Link. There is a massive digital universe hidden just beyond our sight. This beautiful wonderland is called the World, and it was built by the company CyberConnect. While inside its servers, you could become a treasure hunter, a pet collector, or really whatever you want. Not everything is as happy as it may appear though, because there's also a deadly evil lurking here. Someone or something has found a way to take over the minds of people in the game, which leads to them being put in a coma in real life while leaving their characters as nothing more than slaves to this new master. The only person with the strength to uncover how this is all happening is Tokyo, a man who prides himself on being able to beat any game. Dot Hack Link really stands apart from the rest of the hack titles because it merges all the best elements of previous storylines into one. Instead of just being a single tiny problem that needs to be solved to fix the world, Tokyo bounces through eras, meeting all the heroes from past games and trying to unite them for a grand confrontation. Even after having played every game in the series, I was still amazed by how much they improved the combat and wrote a tale that kept me locked in and afraid to put it down until I saw the credits. Number 1. Mother 3. This is by far the most requested translated game ever. For those that don't know, the famous Super Nintendo project Earthbound was part of a trilogy of RPGs called Mother. All three of these games are fantastic, but many consider Mother 3 to be a totally perfect role-playing adventure. While these 16-bit cartoonish graphics may give the impression that this is a kid's title, they actually deal with some pretty heavy plot. When twin brothers Lucas and Claus go on a family trip with their mom up into the mountains, there's a sudden invasion from the Pig Mask Army. These soldiers have been brainwashed to burn down villages and break anyone who tries to slow down their objective of complete domination of the island. Teaming up with their father Flint, the boys set out to stop this nefarious plan. To put it lightly, Mother 3 is a very unconventional game. Fighting may be turn-based like other JRPGs, and yet there's a lot of small details that make the action much stranger. For one thing, there's a musical combo system that allows you to deal more damage if you can stick to the rhythm of the background music. You can also channel the mental abilities of our characters to fire psychic blasts to hurt the brains of our foes. Obviously, the developers were willing to experiment with all sorts of bizarre concepts for this, but the final design was definitely worth it. Because of its stellar combat, enthralling story, and daunting world, I am awarded this my pick as the best game trapped in Japan. Did your favorite project not make the list? Got an idea for a future top 10? Leave it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Okay, I seriously gotta get to work on a very top secret project that might involve this character. I'm not gonna say what his name is. I mean, who knows? Who is this? He's got a green tunic on a sword. What does this mean? What project am I working on? Is it a big review that will be a Breath of Fresh? It's Breath of the Wild. I'm working on a Breath of the Wild review, okay? Top secret. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked this video, maybe check out my last video. Please subscribe, and if you want, share this somewhere with your friends.